Okay, hi y'all, welcome to another episode. So this is episode 34, and today I want to continue to talk about like the season of why the fuck do I do what I do, right? So I talked about a couple of other things that I read about, did a little bit of research with psychology and relationships, right? So if you look at the last couple episodes, you'll see what I was talking about. So in this episode, I want to talk about an interesting date that I had, and I want to talk about a word that, oh my God, I have such a fucking hard time saying, which is also part of the study, which is reciprocity. Reciprocity. Oh my God, that is so hard for me to say. Okay, so when I was thinking about this one, I was thinking about myself and why do I do what I do? Like, why do I make the choices I make? And I started thinking about, my podcast, right? So I talk about this with a couple friends that are close to me, in my little tiny inner circle often. And it's interesting to me because, I'm pretty public with my life. I want to make my life as positive and helpful and friendly as I can. I hope to inspire. I hope to motivate. I hope to make you guys laugh. I hope you guys I always want you guys to know that I'm here if you need anything, right? So it's one of the reasons I did the podcast. I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to make my life good. I'm trying to leave it better than I found it kind of thing, right? Okay, so what I do find interesting about it is because I try to be as public as I can. I try to protect privacy, of course, but I try to be public. So, specifically with my social media, and every once in a while I get a lot of negative feedback, and it's rare, and I'm okay with it because you can't try to build anything in life that's positive without any kind of criticism. Everything positive gets criticism, right? So I try to have a thick skin, and I'm pretty good, but every once in a while, some things really bother me, and there is this interesting double standard that I have known about for years. And it's like the guy who, goes on a bunch of dates. He's like a flirt. Everybody's like, holy shit, he's cute. He's a stud. He's fucking awesome. You go, man. Way to go kind of thing, right? Well, there's the female who goes on a few dates and it's often perceived as fucking negative, and it drives me crazy because it's a double standard, but also it drives me crazy because there is the assumption that since I've been on 71 dates, there's the assumption that I've had sex with all of these people, which is actually, if you know me at all in my inner circle, that's fucking further from the truth, right? So it's really funny to me that there's the perception that, a female who goes on a lot of first dates, she must be a fucking whore, right? It drives me crazy. It's slutty. It's negative, and I hate that. And that's not the case. But the guy, of course, he's like, oh, he's cool, right? Anyway, so the double standard bothers me, but there's a lot of double standards in life that bother me, but this one bothers me the most. Also, if you're not in my inner circle, you really don't know me, so fuck off kind of thing. Okay, so aside from all that, reciprocity. Okay, so basically, if you look that up in Google, it's actually pretty interesting, but I want to talk about it in relationships, right, as part of the study. So if you look up in Google, reciprocity is basically, it's an exchange. It's, you're gaining a mutual benefit. It's like a gift for a gift, a favor for a favor, right? The negative way, of course, it's like tit for tat, right? So it's like, if you do something negative to me, I'm going to do something negative to you. So it's kind of like, it has the capacity to be negative and full of revenge, but that's not what I want to talk about with this study. Okay, so reciprocity. Oh my God, I just said it. Okay, for me in a relationship, and of course, if you do your own research and you read your own studies, which of course I always find fucking fascinating, is literally about going into a relationship with somebody, whether it's like a friendship, whether it's a work partnership, whether you're trying to date somebody. It's one of those things to me that when I think about it, I think of when I go out to lunch with my buddies, right? And we spend all fucking hours of all the fucking hours together when we're working, right? When we go out to lunch, if my buddy is a little short one day, I'm like, no big deal, I got you. And he's like, okay, cool. Because over time we have established the relationship of faith and confidence in each other. If you got me this time, I got you next time. We're not one of those people that sit down and we're kind of okay, you owe me $2.37. That's not my style, and I actually don't enjoy that. I respect other people's wishes, but that's not me. So that's kind of what this is talking about within relationships, right? So I love to spoil people who I date. There's hardly been fucking any of them, by the way, because, the assumption is always that I'm, I'm a fucking whore. But I've actually had very, very few relationships in my lifetime. I've had 3 marriages. I had 1 engagement, and I don't know. I just haven't had that many actual relationships. I'm going to be 51. I'm happy with my life. I wish, my marriages had worked out differently, but I don't regret any of them. Like, no regrets. My last engagement, that's probably the one with the most regrets, but I think that's just part of learning and that's part of life. Anyway, so when you think about reciprocity within a relationship that you're trying to like foster with someone, right? Like you want the relationship to grow. First date, second date, third date, everybody's on their best behavior. You don't really know what that other person is like, right? Like you don't know if the person you're dating is a person who's like, is she going to give me the extra $6 for the extra cheese or whatever the fuck she ordered, right? Like, I don't want to go out with somebody that's like that. I'd rather go out with somebody and it's like a teamwork, it's like a partner work, and it's kind of like my work buddy, like I was talking about. We go out to dinner, I got you this time, you get me next time, right? If I'm out in the grocery store and I see like fruit that you like or whatever, some random bullshit that you like, if I get it for you as a gift because I'm thinking you're going to do the same thing for me. That's reciprocity, right? So that's one of those things that a lot of people, like I've talked about before, in the last couple episodes, it's one of those things that is kind of a love language, like if it's important to you, you're going to find that within other people. But it also has like the negative effect to it, right? So as I was starting to say before, I love to spoil the people that I'm dating, right? So my ex-fiance loved massages. I used to massage him as often as I could. Almost a nightly ritual kind of thing, right? So we didn't see each other that often, it was long distance, but that was like a whole thing. And what was really cool about it was like, I loved it because he looked so happy and, he would sleep really restfully that night and I cared about him. So I wanted him to sleep restfully. But over time, as I said before, I like to spoil people, so it's kind of my own fault. But over time, he was like, okay, it's time for a massage. So that's where the negative aspect could come into place, right? So you don't want to always be the giver, right? You want to be able to receive. And I don't mean this sexually, though. That's fucking awesome, too. But what I mean is, like, you want things to be fair, in my opinion, to have, like, a good partnership, a good relationship, a good friendship that is, revolving around reciprocity, right? Okay, so it's like a favor for a favor, it's a gift for a gift, it's a mutual benefit, but you don't want it to be negative, right? Like I remember, God, like 100 years ago or so when I was married to my third husband, we actually have like a great relationship, friendship, and it's pretty awesome that we've been able to maintain friendships and all this time. And it's really cool. Like he's happy. He's like, happily involved with somebody else, planning his life. It's awesome. I'm happy for him. But it's taken years to get to this point, right? Anyway, so the other day I called him because I needed a small favor for my mother, and my mother's fucking awesome. So he was like, of course, like instantly. And then I filled him in about, my life. And I was just kind of like, yeah, so, really quick catch up, hope everything's going good with you and your girl kind of thing. He's like, yeah, it's awesome, whatever. I was like, good. And I was like, well, really the only thing going on with me, because, my engagement didn't work out. But the only thing going on with me that's new is I started boxing and I fucking love boxing. And he instantly was like, without skipping a beat, he's funny. Of course, I was always funnier. But he was like, without skipping a beat, he was like, I'm glad that you're getting the therapy that I always thought you needed. It was awesome as shit. Anyway, we had a few laughs and it was a good catch up. But my point is like reciprocity within relationships, right? It can be negative, right? So this leads me to first date number 62. Okay, so it's a little bit of a throwback. Really nice guy. Pretty old school guy. He a couple years younger than me, which was interesting because, we met on a dating app, of course, right? And, we got along fairly well. I thought it was really cute. He wasn't completely my type, but kind of my type, right? He had beautiful blue eyes. He worked out. Anyway, so we started talking. He didn't have any tattoos. He wasn't a huge bodybuilder, no beard, no prior service. But I don't know, there's something about him I liked, probably just the blue eyes, right? Anyway, so we started talking. He lives, I want to say about 45 minutes to an hour, so not crazy far. Actually, no. He was about 25, 30 minutes away, so not that far. And for whatever reason, I have noticed that men locally do not like me. I don't know why, because I'm fucking awesome. But I remember thinking when he told me where he lived, I was like, holy shit, that's like 25, 30 minutes away. Not that, I talked about proximity before in the last episode, but not that necessarily the fact that he lives so close means like, that's it, you're the one, I'm going to like latch onto you like a leash. It was just kind of like refreshing and shocking because most men that I like, or should I say most men that like me, live fucking far away, right? Fucking another state across the country. But anyway, whatever. Okay, so we decided to meet. And of course, my work schedule is my work schedule. I can't really control it. I try. My current boss is awesome as shit. He does what he can, but I can't always commit to things Monday through Friday because I'm at work and I don't know when the fuck I'm going to be done for the day. And I don't know if I'm going to be 2 hours away in Syracuse or if I'm going to actually be in Horseheads or in another local town. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be. So it's really hard, right? So I explained all this to this guy, the guy's about my age, he was successful financially, talked about his kids, great relationship, with his ex kind of thing. So he was just like, I get it. He was just like, let's just do like a time frame then. I'm like, awesome. I love time frames. So he's 25-30 minutes away ish, right? So I was like, hey, why don't we meet at Buffalo Wild Wings? And I remember him thinking, what? He was like, that's the first date. I don't want to take you there. I'm like, I know, but it's like really close to where I work. It's fucking Thursday. So there's like the BOGO. Like, who doesn't want a fucking BOGO for one? I love Buffalo Wild Wings. And then also in the back of my mind, if we don't actually get along, I'm still going to have a decent meal, still have a nice cold beer or two, and I'll be able to watch a game or a fight or something that's happening with all the TVs, right? So I talked about this actually the other day. I think Buffalo Wild Wings, fucking underrated, great first date. Anyway, okay, so so he's a little like, are you sure it's a first date? I'm like, I'm totally sure. This is like my style. I could be there within this time frame. If you don't mind, I'll call you, text you, whatever. And then I'll give you like an update. And he's like, okay, cool, right? So sure enough, I tell my boss, because of course my boss in my office always like tease me about my dating. And I was like, okay, guys, so I don't know what's happening today, but I can do what I can, tomorrow, the next couple of days. But today I have a date. So if I can get out like, a reasonable time to go to Buffalo Wild Wings for a first date, it'd be awesome as shit. And they're like, okay, cool, right? So sure enough, I text him and I'm like, hey, so I can actually make it at this time, that time. He's like, cool. And then he's like, what are you wearing? And I'm like, what do you mean? It's Buffalo fucking Wild Wings. I was like, I don't know. I'm wearing like shorts or like sweatpants or whatever. I'm going to go home and change, whatever. I'm going to be casual. And he's just like, you want me to dress up? It's a first date. I'm like, no, it's Buffalo Wild Wings. So we joked about it later. I was like, I should have said, yeah, I'm fucking wearing a dress, which I hardly wear, though I did buy some recently. But anyway. Okay, so we go ahead and meet. He's cute. I walk in the door. He's there a few minutes before me, which I actually kind of love. He had a table. He hadn't ordered a beer, but he had like a water. It was really cute. And then like the menu. And there's Buffalo Wild Wings. So of course it's like that little plastic menu or whatever. But he was just kind of like, I have the menu ready for you in the water. And I'm just like, oh, so cute and old school and so sweet, right? And his eyes were fucking beautiful. He looked just like I thought he was going to look, like in person, right? So I didn't feel a huge amount of chemistry, but I thought he was really attractive, right? So this is interesting to me because when I started reading and thinking about reciprocity, I started thinking about number 62. Okay, so within the meal, we order our wings, because I'm crazy fancy. I'm like in heaven, like with my wings, eating with my hands. Fucking garlic parmesan's my favorite, so I'm sure it's in my hair, but I'm like loving life, right? So he's a little nervous, and I could tell, and he actually comments that he's nervous, and I'm like, don't be nervous, it's just me, like, it's fine, like it's just me. And we're at Buffalo Wild Wings, like, so like relax. So he calms down a little bit. He starts drinking his Bud Light because, I ordered Bud Light, so he's like, I'll go with Bud Light. Good classic for all you haters out there. Anyway, so he's like, he's drinking a little, probably quicker than he normally does based on like the hint of his eyes, but he was nervous, so I get that. I'm not going to fault him for that. So he's drinking his beer a little bit, quicker than I think that he normally does. So he gets a little like, I don't know if tipsy is the right word, but he's definitely feeling good, right? So he's feeling good. Like we're bullshitting about whatever, because of course I'm funny as shit. So he's like laughing, relaxing with beer. And then all of a sudden, out of the fucking blue, out of nowhere in conversation, he starts talking about his ex-wife. And I just like looked at him because I remember thinking, where did this come from? Because we're talking about whatever fucking bullshit we're talking about because I'm funny as shit, right? And then all of a sudden he starts talking about his ex. And this reminds me of reciprocity because I'm trying to connect with this person, at least for the meal, if not for like a second date, third date, whatever. I'm having fun. I'm, I'm eating my wings and feeling good, right? So I'm trying to like, mutual respect, right? Mutual benefit, common courtesy, right? So he's talking about his ex. So I'm just kind of like, well, I might as well tell you about my ex, right? So I'm telling him about my ex-husband. And then he's talking about his ex-wife, and he's talking about his kids, and he's talking about all of a sudden all these negative things that he had not said previously until we were sitting down in this restaurant. Because previously he had talked about how they were co-parenting really well, and there's like a team, and he was really happy because the kids aren't affected and blah, 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 whatever. And then all of a sudden it's the complete opposite that he's telling me in person. So I'm just like, interesting. So I'm kind of like, wow, unfortunately I can't really relate. I mean, I can sympathize, but I can't really relate to you, because, I never had kids, my ex and I didn't have kids. So, I don't know why, but so he's talking about that. I'm just like, I do know people in similar situations. I'm sorry that your kids are affected. Hopefully you guys can work it out. It hasn't been that long, right? Since you've been divorced. And he's like, no, it's been about 3 years. And I'm thinking, holy fuck, you've been divorced for 3 years and you're still having fights like this with your ex on a day-to-day basis. But I mean, who am I to judge, right? So reciprocity, right? So I tried to change the subject, right? So I'm kind of like, you shared something with me, so I shared something with you. So I talked very, very generally, vaguely about my ex-husband. And then, nothing too bad. It was just funny, like whatever the fuck it was. And then we kept talking about whatever the fuck we were talking about. And then all of a sudden he came back to his ex. And then he kept coming back to his ex. And then he kept saying, I'm so sorry. Let me get you another beer. I'm going to get another beer. I'm so sorry. I'm just so nervous. And I'm just like, it's okay. I'm like, if you want to talk about your ex, it's okay. Like, if you're having feelings about it today, not a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, we're in Buffalo Wild Wings. Like, it's okay. So he keeps talking about her. So the whole night he talks about her pretty much. And the whole time I'm kind of like, my wings are good. My beer's good. I'm ready to go home. I have to work tomorrow. And he's still talking and he's a little sad. So remember, one of my main goals in life that I have given myself is to help other people when they need it, right? So he's a nice guy. He's beautiful blue eyes. I'm becoming less and less physically attracted to him because he keeps talking about his ex. Because I'm like, obviously, we can be friends, but it's not going to go beyond friendship at this point because you're obviously so hooked and connected to her in this relationship that, you're still talking about 3 years later that you probably shouldn't be on this date with me, but that's okay, right? So as I said, I have the podcast because I want to be around for people when they feel like they have no one else to talk to. Like, I want to be that person, right? So I'm like listening. And then, we're basically closing Buffalo Wild Wings down. The part that I live in New York, it's not a party town. So it's like 9 o'clock, 9:30. The guy is like with his little iPad, like, you guys ready? Like, because he like fucking wants to go home, right? So the guys are at this point 62. Oops, sorry about that. So at this point 62 is a little sad. I'm feeling bad for him, right? So we continue the conversation, and then I give him a hug, on the way out. I am just kind of like, dude, I'm probably never going to see you again. And then he gives me a second hug, and he's like, I'm really sorry. He was like, can we meet again? I'm like, sure, we can meet again. So we met again. We had a second date. I don't know. I feel like sometimes in life you meet people that you're supposed to for some reason, whether they're teaching you a lesson or whether you're helping them, mitigate their life in some way. So I wish him well. I haven't spoken to him since. I hope whatever issues he has going on with his ex have been resolved by now. But it did make me start to think about reciprocity because he was sharing with me, I was sharing with him, but it also seemed like unequal and unbalanced, kind of like the massages like I was talking about. So I feel like reciprocity definitely has the potential to be positive and negative, right? Depending on how you deal with it within your friendships or what have you. But I don't know. I do think, though, that I don't support somebody who wants to be codependent, right? Like, if you want to talk about your ex and you're going to force me to talk about mine and we keep going, we get along, like, it's just not going to work for me. So anyway, so I hope he's doing well. Think about reciprocity within your daily life, because it could just be your coworkers too. Like I said, my buddy, like if he's running low, 1 week we haven't gotten paid, I'm just kind of like, I got your coffee, I got your burger, whatever you get me next time. I think that's a good deal because in the end, things balance out, right? Anyway, so as usual, if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, what have you, definitely feel free to reach out to me. You know where I am on my platforms. And of course, I have not slept with fucking 71 men, all right? Okay, so if you guys need anything, I am always here for you and love you and